Hello, I'm Greg Grell, longtime Duluth journalist, volunteering today in support of LISC. On behalf of LISC Duluth and its many partners, thank you. It's my privilege to serve as your MC for the first ever virtual LISC Duluth annual celebration, Emerging Opportunities.
And I'm Pam Kramer, Executive Director of LISC in Duluth. First of all, thank you, Greg, for being with us as we adjust to this new reality of virtual meetings. To our audience, we appreciate your taking the time to celebrate this new emerging opportunities in Duluth.
You know, 2020 marks LISC's 23rd year working as an advocate and community partner for Duluth. So Pam, for those that may be unfamiliar to LISC, could you give us a quick synopsis of what LISC Duluth actually does?
Sure. First of all, LISC is a national community development intermediary. Our Duluth program is proud to be one of 35 local LISC programs around the country. LISC works to push us aside obstacles and to bring people and resources together to catalyze opportunities. No single factor drives the opportunity gap, so no single program can fix it. That's why LISC takes a comprehensive approach. We do this by working with residents, nonprofits, and an extensive network of public and private partners to help the community access safe, affordable housing, quality education, job training, financial coaching, digital access, healthy food, and much more.
Wow, Duluth isn't alone in grappling with this major economic and health crisis from COVID-19. Pam, what are you seeing on the ground in Duluth?
Well, clearly, Duluth has been hit hard, like many other communities, and the long-term effects of which are still not clear. LISC has gathered critical information from our partners on how the virus has impacted those they serve. They report a surge in unemployment and benefits applications, and an increased need for financial counseling and job placement and training, a lack of access to healthy food and childcare, and over 1,900 families in our school district reported they're without a device or internet access for their child's education. We also see increased homelessness and an inability to access decent, affordable rental housing.
Now, in light of all this, Pam, what are some of the key initiatives LISC is taking right now?
Well, LISC is responding to this crisis by launching and co-chairing the Duluth Digital Inclusion Partnership, which is working with public and private partners to help students, underserved households, and job seekers access devices, affordable connectivity, and digital navigation training. We're assisting small businesses through the national LISC Small Business Recovery Grant Program, where we have secured Verizon and US Bank and other LISC grant support to help 20 businesses to date to keep their doors open. Duluth was selected as one of 5 LISC sites by US Bank for their LISC US Bank Foundation COVID-19 Recovery Grant Program that's working with Equilibrium 3, the Entrepreneur Fund, and UMD on a detailed recovery plan for the Lincoln Park neighborhood. This features providing technical assistance, business surveys, and grants to neighborhood businesses. We're also leading efforts to attract social impact investors to ensure that the Duluth's 5 opportunity zones address community needs and secure no or low cost capital to address Duluth's affordable housing. And finally, we're developing a plan to build wealth, entrepreneurship, and economic stability for Black, Indigenous, and communities of color in Duluth with a planning grant where we're partnering with a very diverse group of community consultants, small business, and workforce providers.
Well, that's impressive. It sounds like LISC is working on all fronts to address the community needs by engaging the community in this work. And that's a really great segue to today's speakers. Minnesota Housing Commissioner Jennifer Holt and LISC CEO and President Maurice A. Jones are joining us live to talk about emerging opportunities from their vantage point. And later, Duluth Mayor Emily Larson will join us right here in person to help us present the 2020 Annual Building Healthy Communities Award.
We also plan to hear from our audience too today, Greg.
That's right. We're asking for your involvement during our question and answer with Commissioner Ho and Maurice Jones. You're invited to submit questions through the chat feature. I will receive your questions and we'll be asking them with our guest speakers or sharing them with our guest speakers. You may also text your questions to 320-444-1523.
So that's 320-444-1523.
That's right.
We're excited to have LISC CEO and President Maurice A. Jones join us from his home in the state of Virginia for this annual celebration. Maurice was recently recognized as an agent of change by Impact Alpha for LISC's successful response to the pandemic and our work addressing racial equity. LISC is so fortunate to have Maurice's leadership and vision guiding us at this time. Welcome to our 2020 virtual gathering, Maurice.
Pam, thanks. Greg, thanks. It's nice to be with all of you in Duluth and whoever else is watching us for this gathering. I must say, my preference would have been there with you live and in person, but that's not the world we're working in now. And I'm just grateful that I have the chance to chat with you in this forum. And I do want to send my thoughts and best wishes that everybody is healthy, staying sane most days, and fighting the good fight as we battle across the country multiple pandemics, if you will, a health pandemic, a recession, and a racial reckoning that poses some real opportunities for all of us to help the country live into the creed that all of us are created equal with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. LISC is definitely excited about the opportunities that this moment actually is posing for us to do even deeper work with partners in places like Duluth. And I just wanted to share two or three things or two or three thoughts from our perspective. We are a comprehensive community development organization, meaning we believe that if you're really going to catalyze opportunity, that you have to work on housing, you have to work on small business development, you have to work on health and social determinants of health, you have to work on racial equity, you have to work on leadership, you have to work on child care. In other words, you have to be able to do these things simultaneously and comprehensively. And LISC is committed to continuing to do that in Duluth and other places across the country. I do want to say that at this time, we are particularly focused on making sure that we can be maximally helpful to our small businesses and helping them to really confront what is in a lot of places an existential threat. And then, frankly, fight to recover and reposition for another day. We have already, as of right now, across the country distributed over $200 million in grants and forgivable loans to small businesses. And we intend to be at this work for quite some time. We have a real focus on small businesses that are led by Blacks and Indigenous people and other people of color, small businesses that are led by women, small businesses that are really, really working in low wealth communities. And we intend to be aggressive in Duluth and other places in trying to make sure that our small businesses weather this storm and bounce back for another day. Secondly, we are quite committed in working aggressively to ensure that the places that need immediate relief and the people that need immediate relief, that we are going above and beyond the call to be helpful in that regard. And that's through our financial opportunity centers like the one you have in Duluth that I visited not too long ago that the Community Action Agency is operating. We want to make sure that we are partnering with groups like that who are providing immediate relief to people, who are helping people navigate assistance like unemployment benefits, who are helping folks with issues related to paying rent, issues related to how they access benefits. We are trying to do everything we can to do even more to be good partners to groups like that. And then lastly, and definitely not least, if you will, is the issues that the country needs to rededicate itself to around advancing health and wealth for all people, no matter what place and no matter what race. We are definitely redoubling our commitment and our monies toward these things. And we want to make sure that we're investing in people's abilities to have livable wage journeys with jobs, healthy housing. We want to make sure that there's no place where life expectancy is 20 and 30 years below a neighboring zip code, and we have that all around the country right now. LISC wants to put money and technical assistance and time and treasure behind eliminating these gaps that are, I think, the biggest threat to American competitiveness that we have. So, just a little introduction there, and let me segue to what I think is going to be the most fun I have. I'm really pleased that I'm sharing this time with you with a good friend of mine and an incredible talent in your housing commissioner, Minnesota Housing Commissioner, Jennifer Ho. Jennifer is, I'll read you a little bit of her resume, and then I want to tell you the real deal. Before serving as commissioner, Jennifer was the deputy director at the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness and served as the senior advisor for housing and services at HUD. She also worked with First Lady Michelle Obama to launch the Mayor's Challenge to end veteran homelessness. Last month, Jennifer was recognized with a very prestigious award, the Sheila Crowley Housing Justice Award from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. I had the real honor of working with Jennifer at HUD, where without a doubt, she was the smartest person in the building and the most committed person in particular to fighting for justice for people. She did it through housing and health, but her passion was justice for all people. And on top of that, she and I share a great passion for basketball and in particular the Minnesota Lynx. So she is not only an incredible talent, the bottom line is she's a wonderful soul and a person that I can call not just a colleague, but most especially a friend. And so, Commissioner, it's nice to be with
you. You're making me blush, Maurice. But it's reminding me of when I brought my parents into HUD, and you sat with them, and then you just told them how wonderful I was, and it's quite embarrassing, but it's really it's great to see you. So, who's going to win the WNBA this year? You think?
I won't jinx it. I'll tell you the strongest team looks like a team out west. I hate to say it, but I won't mention the name.
All right, safe enough.
Well, I'm going to jump in now with a few questions to guide our conversation today. First of all, it would be great to hear from each of you on how the COVID-19 pandemic has altered your work and the missions of your organization. Commissioner Ho, do you want to start?
Thanks, Craig. And I just want to say thanks to Pam and the whole LISC Duluth team for having me today. I wish I was up there doing this in person, but here we are. COVID-19 has just been a total game changer for us. And I think the first thing that's important for folks to know is that Minnesota Housing has remained in business, even though we are all working from home most days. And so just so impressed with our ability to convert to a teleworking environment, as so many folks have, and to see the stuff going forward. Minnesotans were struggling with an adequate supply of housing, especially housing for people who make the least before COVID. And I think the pandemic and what's happened with the economy as a result have really shone a bright light on that. We've done a lot of work on helping people who are living outside, who don't have a home during the period of time where we were supposed to be staying at home, trying to make sure that we weren't just continuing to play musical chairs with people who are living outside, helping shelters decompress in partnership with our friends at the Department of Human Services. And of course, the governor has an executive order that stops evictions in most cases, except for the most extreme situations where people are harming others or harming property. The other big thing that we've done is launch the COVID Housing Assistance Program that's providing, I think over 19,000 people have already inquired. If you need help with housing assistance, call 211 or go to 211unitedway.org. So those are, I think, some of the really big things. Maurice?
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, what COVID combined with the recession, combined with the racial reckoning has really, really done for us is really focused us on, as I was mentioning, our need to really do more to close the health and the wealth gaps that you see across racial lines and that you see across geographic lines. In most places where we live in the country, and Duluth is no different, you can actually drive 10 miles in one direction, let's say the west, and the life expectancy will be in the 80s. You can drive 10 miles to the other direction, let's say in the east, and the life expectancy will be in the 60s. And what the difference is the conditions under which people are living. Those are the people who were most harmed during this COVID pandemic. And so what the pandemic has really forced us to do is to really, really focus more on closing wealth and health that break down along racial and geographic lines across the country. And that's been a real motivator for us. The other piece that I would say is technology. I mean, we're working remotely, right? We've been working remotely since mid-March. Most of our partners work remotely or continue to work remotely. And so the issue of trying to find better ways to deliver our products and services via a technology platform and helping our partners serve residents and communities via technology platforms and small businesses get their products out. That has changed and that won't go back. Moving forward, we have to be more aggressive in making sure that all entities, nonprofit and for-profit, social services, and technology companies have a platform through which they can deliver their products and services via technology. That incredibly intense way. We feel the fierce urgency of now to tackle these issues. So we've definitely got a invitation, and we're looking for more partners to work with.
The murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis launched a reckoning across the country and even the world about racial injustice. How does this moment catalyze your work, Commissioner?
I think that we really have had to challenge ourselves within Minnesota Housing to find the words and the space to be able to talk about how race and racism have played out in the housing market. You know, the Mapping Prejudice Project did a great job of just tracking the history of redlining and kind of systemic racism in housing work. And so really the journey that we're on at Minnesota Housing is to figure out what it means to be state government and do anti-racist work. You know, I think we've done a lot of work in the space of homeownership, recognizing that Minnesota has the fourth worst gap in homeownership for communities of color and especially Black households in terms of homeownership rate. But we also know that we're a small part of the total market, and what can we do in order to move the whole industry in that direction? We You know, we've done work obviously in the homelessness space where the disproportionality is so clear. But I think it's just really everything, right? Just really thinking about the history of the policies and the processes and why it is that we've always done things a certain way. Who we partner with, how we think about capacity, who we listen to, how we engage. Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me has just been not being able to spend as much time with communities who are most impacted by the housing, rise in housing prices compared to what people make. And so it's just a real challenge to figure out how to do this in this remote environment. But staff, my leadership team, we're making time to really learn how to talk these things through and be able to put questions on the table that maybe the agency wasn't comfortable asking in the past. And I think the murder of George Floyd just forces us to push ourselves and all of our spheres of influence to take a close look, have hard conversations, stay in the moment, and keep working until we resolve these horrific housing disparities.
Yeah, and I would echo of the commissioner. I think for us, it has really enhanced our intentionality around focusing on racial inequalities and racial injustice. So let me give you an example. The federal government inaugurated a paycheck protection program, which was designed to help businesses stay open by giving them basically forgivable loans that would enable them to stay open and not have to downsize their workforce. Well, we jumped into the Paycheck Protection Program as one of the lenders, one of the providers of forgivable loans. And we decided that we were going to focus those resources on businesses led by people of color. So over 90% of the businesses that we focused on were led by Blacks and other people of color. Over 80% were nonprofits led by these same folks. And then we issued about $200 million in grants. And again, we focused with intentionality on businesses led by people of color. 95% of the grantees that we served were businesses led by people of color. So what it has done is really invited us to be even more intentional about our work around fighting racial justice and a broader share of wealth and prosperity around the country. And I welcome that invitation, and that is if you will, an invitation that we've accepted that go back on. I mean, that's not just going to be for now, but this is a guidepost for us for quite some time to come.
I think just, Greg, if I can just jump in quick, I think the key in the Duluth region too is to think about Indian communities and the tribal nations and how we do the work there, where we know that some of the housing disparities are so enormous. So just want to flag that for the Duluth audience.
All right, well, thank you. We're getting some questions.
Intentionality is going to be the key.
We are getting some questions from the audience now, and the viewer is wondering, in these challenging times, what gives Commissioner Ho and CEO Maurice Jones hope when they get up in the morning? Maurice, would you like to start?
Yeah, that's easy. Having Commissioner Ho in her job gives me hope, right? I know having a talent like that doing the important job that she's doing gives me hope. And while Commissioner Ho is in a class to herself, what we have found is that all across the country, there have been partners that have stepped up to work with us on solving these problems. So what gives me hope really is the enormous reception that we are seeing from businesses and from individuals to the moment that we're living in. I see others who have the fierce urgency of now with respect to these issues, and they're stepping up to partner with us. This will be LISC's biggest year on record. This year in actually receiving resources and biggest year in providing resources. And that's because people and organizations are moved by what they see, moved they discern, moved by a sense of injustice, moved by a sense of, I've got to do something. That's what gives me hope. And I am overwhelmingly hopeful. I am way more hopeful than anything else. And yeah, I'm moved as well, as you might be able to tell here. And so I'm looking forward. My prayer is that this moving spirit that we're seeing is not just for 2020, but will last for quite some time, because we need sustainable passion to fix the problems that we're trying to fix.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Maurice. You give me hope too. Yeah, but hope isn't a feeling. Like hope is a call to action, and I think that that's really important right now. You know, I'll admit I have mood swings. The COVID and the murder of George Floyd and being in the middle of a national election, you know, it's hard not to have mood swings. But the few times I get to leave home, yeah, I complain about telework, but when I leave home, I go and see construction projects where people have continued to work. I had an opportunity to visit a family permanent supportive housing project down in Dakota County that's getting ready to open and move in 40 families who have experienced homelessness. I'm coming up to Duluth next month to go to the groundbreaking for Decker Dwellings. I think of Garfield Square and Birchwood, other work that Center City Housing is doing. The people who are on the front lines in shelter and doing homeless street outreach. I know Mayor Larson is joining. You know, she has the soul of an outreach worker and a shelter worker. And it's the people who do the work and their commitment to doing the work and realizing that we do this one family at a time, one building at a time, one project at a time. You know, the legislature, less hope. I got less hope there right now. You know, we failed to do a bonding bill when interest rates are so low. You know, there's still an opportunity. Just to think that in February, we were talking about the possibility of $500 million in housing infrastructure bonds, and right now we're sitting with nothing. Yeah, that's frustrating to me, but out of frustration comes determination. We need more housing, a lot more housing. We needed it before COVID happened. We need it now. We need to do it with intentionality, and we need to look to young people, look to the frontline workers, look to the helpers. And on days when you're down, just turn to somebody who's doing the work, and that will restore your hope.
All right, we have just a few minutes left now. The last question to Commissioner Ho and to Maurice today is, without a bonding bill, what kind of investments can the housing agency make?
We need a bonding bill. You know, I have tried to reframe our competition, because every good project that's viable, I would love to say yes to. And even with a large amount of bonding like we had last year, I'm still saying no to more projects than I'm saying yes to. And this year, without housing infrastructure bonds, we are sadly going to have to say no to more projects than we should at a time where we need more housing, especially housing that's targeted to people that make the least. So you know, for folks who are out there, don't underestimate the power of a phone call or an email or a door knock to your legislators about the importance of their doing their work. Because the legislature is who gives us the authority to go after this money, to be able to invest. And without their action, my hands get more tied. I mean, we're still in the middle of a competition. We still have tax credits. We still have some other agency resources that we'll be investing, but it's not go big. And we're at a time where we need to go big.
Well, I echo the commissioner's lament. You need a bonding bill. That's the first thing I would say. But even without it, what I would tell you is what we're seeing across the country is a real stepping up amongst philanthropy, amongst the private sector, companies, banks, corporations, healthcare. We're seeing these industries step up and put money on the table and really help us to get projects done. Housing for extremely low income folks, healthcare centers for folks who don't have adequate access to quality care, child care centers. We're seeing it all across the country. So I want to encourage everybody that no one should wait for a bonding bill. The corporate, the private, the philanthropic, the healthcare sectors all have a stake in quality housing. Without quality housing, there is no health. Without quality housing, there is no opportunity, whether it's work or the rest. And so my encouragement is that the private sector continue to own community development, continue to own opportunity work, and continue to invest in it because it's good for all of us. Vibrant is as broadly shared growth, and all of us have to participate in that.
Wow, well, thank you very much. Very impressive. I wish we had more time. I want to thank our speakers today for sharing your insights. And now what I look forward to every year, Pam, it's LISC's annual video.
Well, thank you, Greg. And I just have to say, I wish we were all in person. You've shared hope. You've shared wonderful insights. Thank you to Commissioner Ho, and thank you to Maurice Jones for joining us today. So this year's video is Emerging Opportunities. And the first interviews were filmed in February prior to physical distancing and before the Minnesota mask mandate. So you'll see a little different scenery there. The video shares both the needs and opportunities in our community. It highlights several LISC partnerships and our role as a capacity builder, a funder, and advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial justice. With that, it's time to view our 2020 video, Emerging Opportunities. It's made possible by our platinum sponsors, DSGW and National Bank of Commerce.
In my mind, safety, decent, affordable housing for everybody is critical if we're going to have a strong community. And I've pretty much dedicated my life to that. As a board member, LISC has been involved in so many wonderful projects. Capacity building to me is, I guess, leadership and technical assistance, and LISC are dedicated to both of those very strongly. To get our partners to be more effective and more efficient, capacity building is critical. And I think it speaks in the results. If you look at what One Roof has done, if you look at what Center City Housing has done, if you look at what ACO has done, Equilibrium 3, Community Action Duluth, you can see results. What's happened in Lincoln Park is an amazing transformation. The craft district is booming, continues to boom. It's exciting to see all the people that from Duluth, but people from outside of Duluth that want to be a part of that.
Equilibrium 3 is a community-based development organization in Lincoln Park. We work at the intersection of energy, equity, and economic vitality. We've worked with LISC since the beginning of Equilibrium 3, and actually when we started our work here in Lincoln Park, we had a lot of empty and vacant storefronts. When you have a lot of vacant storefronts, you don't have a lot of foot traffic. And so the type of businesses that you need are really those that might have some manufacturing components or are really destination businesses. And I think we've finally gotten to a point in Lincoln Park where we have enough of that type of density that our business ecosystem is starting to support those businesses that do need the foot traffic. And that's kind of an exciting evolution that we've gone through and that we're looking at continuing to support when some additional challenges like the rebuild of the Twin Ports interchange happens to this neighborhood over the course of the next 4 years. Lincoln Park used to be the west end because it was the west end of downtown. But then the interstate came in and we basically pipelined everybody past this neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons, coupled in with the economic decline that we saw in the 80s, et cetera, that this neighborhood really fell kind of in disrepair. This enthusiasm that we have now and the redevelopment that we have going on right now is really, really key and comes, unfortunately, at a time in which all of that infrastructure is going to be redone. And so our charge as an organization and as a neighborhood is to figure out how we can write a much different narrative when these large transportation projects happen to a low-income neighborhood. One of the important components of having an organization like LISC in Duluth is they serve as an important intermediary, which means to some extent their role is to help us do our work and help us do our work well. And they bring different tools to this community that we wouldn't have without a LISC here. I think the power of Lincoln Park is the fact that people work together, and that attracts people because they find that there's just this palpable energy about the neighborhood. We're talking with groups that support entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs themselves in the revitalization of the craft business district here. How do we intentionally make sure that there is space for businesses and artists of color?
We're trying to create real solutions to very old problems in this community. People don't know what they're capable of if they don't have examples. So we need Black faces in every realm of this community if diversity is going to be important. And so I'm willing and able to be that face when there's not enough of us at the table. So LISC came to me because I was running a business planning class, and they believe that having me come to the table as an African-American person and woman, that I could actually get information out and get more people of color involved in the creative startups process.
144 Music Fashion and more sell trendy clothes, music fashion. So I try and provide that option of, a little edginess, a little trendiness. It took me 5 years to get this business open. First of all, I couldn't find anybody who rent to a minority renter. And man, I went to knocking on doors. Like I probably knocked on every vacant business from here to Superior, and I couldn't get not one person. It was rough getting started. It took a long time, took some patience and perseverance. Eventually, man, I found, just the right people.
Because there's so many people confused, hurt, not understanding, just lacking the knowledge to make it to the next level or to pick themselves up or do things like that. And I want to be that hand, one of the hands out to lift people up, get them in touch with Families Rise Together and say, this is the light.
As a people, we look at wealth as money, right? To me, wealth is more than money. Wealth is knowing who you are when you wake up in the morning, right? And you don't have to question it. You don't have to doubt it. When you are comfortable in your skin before you get out of your bed, nothing will stop you.
I made sure I was focused. My full attention was on just being that Black business that would set the pace for other Black businesses. When we start our businesses, it's okay to give us loans and let us learn. There's a lot going on in the world, but at the same time, Black lives still matter. We're not disposable. We don't want to lord over people. We just want to matter. We just want to be equal.
But for my family and my legacy, I think Families Rise Together has helped me to continue that and push forward and stay motivated.
I will not be nowhere near as I am without the partnerships, including the ones I've built with LISC, but more importantly, the ones I've built with the community. And it's my relationships with the community that strengthens my relationship with LISC.
I think the approach that LISC takes with their quality of life neighborhood is to recognize that there are neighborhoods that face deeper challenges. And having partners like LISC and other funders that are willing to bet on us and bet on our neighborhood to come up with some of those solutions, not only for Lincoln Park, but for the community, the state, and the nation is pretty exciting.
Hopefully I could convince somebody to, just be that support that people need.
LISC and the various partners have been critical to our community. So much has been accomplished that you can look at and identify that going forward, opportunities are endless, I'd say.
Thank you to all who made this year's video happen, including Linda Mathiasen of LDM Consulting and Dean Boatman of Happy Tree Productions for their excellent work on producing this video. And also thank you to those featured in the film. A special thanks also to Scott Yost from the National Audio Visual Company for producing today's event and allowing us to broadcast live. We're at the Maurice's building. We would like to thank Maurice's for accommodating us and being our special host today. We couldn't do this without all of you. We also want to again thank our sponsors, DSGW and National Bank of Commerce, for their help producing the video. And please note that you can find this video on the LISC Duluth website at lisc.org/Duluth. I also want to congratulate Shaquana McIntyre for her very recent recognition as the U.S. Small Business Administration's Minnesota Minority Small Business Champion for 2020. Congratulations to Shaquana. And now we're happy to have a key partner and a huge source of emerging opportunities in Duluth, Mayor Emily Larson. Welcome, Mayor Larson.
Thank you, Pam. It's really nice to see you. I have to say, this is always it's an event I look forward to every year because it feels good to be in a room with people who care deeply about this community, who work hard, and it feels awkward and different to not be together. But I want to thank you for hosting this in this way, in this venue. There's elements that we all are still sharing and together, and it's just nice to visually see you. I haven't seen you for a while. I haven't seen you for a while either. And so thank you for tuning in today to this really special event. That video is actually one of my favorite things about this event every year. And what we'll do after I speak is actually my favorite part, which is where we get to share an award. But I want to talk a little bit about how I see the power of LISC in this community. Pam and the work of the team at LISC, and there are several team members here safely in this room as we're putting this program on. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for challenging us to be a community that can do more, that can be stronger, that can be better. Thank you for leveraging and bringing into this community and the city of Duluth literally tens of millions of dollars over the past 20 years. Often people will ask, what does LISC do? It can be difficult to describe the role of an intermediary, but one of the things that I have found really helpful is to describe LISC kind of like a matched savings program. A lot of people know and understand that when a matched savings program operates, that you put a certain match of finance, into a savings account entity or a bank or your business or your employer matches that. That is a lot of what LISC does. They match financial capacity. They also match professional skills and professional capacity because they are part of a national network. So what we get out of LISC, especially as a community our size, is the skills that are active and making investments across the country in cities like New York City, in cities like San Francisco, in cities where there is expertise level that greatly exceeds some of what we often get in a community of our size. So really grateful to LISC for that. And I want to say that in the past 2 years, some of the work that we have done with LISC as the city of Duluth includes the opportunity zone positioning. As we all know, in the tax bill, there are opportunity zones that make investing in particular zip codes better for your taxes. And so I've really appreciated our work with LISC, Northspan, others to position properties within these opportunity zones. And then the second way that we have found the power of LISC, I've already talked about the finance pieces, but the other ways that we see the power of LISC is in the mayor's housing task force, which I convened last, I think it was October. Feels like 2019 was so long ago, but it was just last year. And so we from October to March, and it was a group of experts and stakeholders in the community. LISC was instrumental in providing us information that's happening across the country. What are other cities doing about affordable housing? What are innovations? What is some research that we can bring to bear? That task force delivered very tangible outcomes. We were going to announce right before the pandemic. And so I am actually eager to get back to that work because as we know and as we see, the pandemic and the time of racial reckoning is really releasing so much of what has been pent up and what needs to be done, the work that we have ahead of us, whether that's in affordable housing expansion, whether that's in making sure people have access to warming centers, safe after school programs, childcare, community organizing that represents people on the ground, all of these things. This is hard work that we will come back to. And so I'm eager for that time to happen. I have just two more things to say. One of them is I wish we were in the same room because I really want to have a conversation in here. What are you doing during this time? And what I mean by that isn't how are we all surviving every day, which can actually be really, really hard. I have a day job. I have teenagers. I'm the daughter of people in their 70s and 80s. I'm worried about my neighbors. I'm worried about the businesses I love and love to go to. And yet, what are we doing beyond that? There are some days that surviving is the win, that we all make it through in one piece. But what we need to also be thinking of is what are we doing for one another? What are we doing for this community? What are we doing block by block? And I'm asking you that question so that you'll consider whether it's making a financial investment as a business into a loan pool that we can leverage for affordable housing, whether it is investing through LISC and other organizations in safe after school care programs. There is the opportunity for you to be a part of that match savings I just talked about. That helps build investment and capacity in this community that is only possible because we have National LISC. And we have LISC office and Pam Kramer and the great team. So I want to leave that nugget with you. And I know that some days are just really hard. You're sitting in front of the computer and you're just trying to get through it. And there are days where you have energy and time or money to spare. And we need all of those brought to bear for this community, for this state, and for this country at this time. So I got a card in the mail a couple of months ago, and I just want to share with you the quote that was on it because I actually look at this card a lot. And I try to, what I have found that is helpful for me to get through this time of pandemic and the realities and the busy intersection of life and living we are at right now is to be somewhat forgiving of myself, to come back to every single day with a spirit of hope and determination, not just for me and my family, but for this community. And so I find that this quote that was given to me on this card is really helpful. And I want to close my comments by saying thank you for who you are, whether you are participating as a sponsor, whether you are a program that receives funding by LISC, whether you have just been curious and are trying to learn more. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you are doing. I know our work, our collective work is hard. I know we are capable of doing amazing things together. And every day we're going to get up and do our best, and we're going to let go of the things that didn't. So with that, this is a quote by Emerson. Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities have crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. You shall begin it serenely and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with all the old nonsense. So until we see each other in person, be well. Take good care, and thank you to LISC and this amazing community for who we are.
And thank you, Mayor, for who you are and
sure.
for all that you do for our community. We appreciate your team at City Hall, and we appreciate your messages that really touch our hearts.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for an organization like ours, it's so important to have a strong partnership with the city. And
That's right.
So thank you to your staff and your leadership.
Oh, thank you. Well, we are thrilled to have you. And my hope is that, do we now get to do my favorite part of the program, Pam, where we get to award and recognize the really hard work and determination of an organization in the community. And this year, the award is Building Healthy Communities, and it recognizes exemplary leadership by a community partner. So this year, LISC focused on the theme of emerging opportunities and recognizing an organization specifically for its COVID response. So Pam, this is the drum roll right now.
The drum roll. For our 2020 Building Healthy Communities Award goes to Community Action Duluth. We're recognizing their immediate response to adapting their FOC, their Financial Opportunity Center, Bridges to Career Opportunities work, as well as other programs to the COVID-19 crisis. They developed the Tech Up program, which helped to find new ways to ensure people continue to pursue their education, build financial stability, and increase employment opportunities. It is a technology grant that they have helped over 160 people and 40 more to come. So to accept this award is Jeff Longenecker, Executive Director of Community Action Duluth, and he's going to be sharing a video that he and his staff and clients prepared to highlight the Tech Up program. So,
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to Community Action Duluth. Thank you for being part.
We knew before the COVID crisis that the digital divide was a real barrier for our residents. That's why we knew we had to act. We created the Tech Up program to have our residents remain connected while we were going virtual and being remote.
The Tech Up program offers free laptops and Wi-Fi to folks who need them for education or healthcare or employment or other social services, and specifically those who otherwise couldn't afford to purchase them themselves. Shortly after we launched the Tech Up program, we received overwhelming interest, and that interest only grew exponentially as word of mouth spread the news. That interest is just another reminder to us that this is a program that's needed in our community, and it will continue to be needed.
I've been able to talk to family back home, and I got to meet my son over the internet. It's able me to get doctor's appointments, which I didn't think I'd be able to get to because of COVID. I've had therapy. I've been able to get my son started with his therapy over the internet, and it's helped our lives a great deal.
When every household got a laptop for community action with the Tech Up program, everybody felt that they were heard, and they got to be again part of the community because they were isolated, but they can now connect virtually with places that they need to connect with. We've seen how technology isn't just a luxury.
On behalf of Community Action Duluth and those we serve, thank you, LISC, for this award and all the support you show us.
And congratulations to Community Action Duluth. And you know what? It's already that time, Pam.
It kind of flew by. But as I've mentioned earlier, you've heard what LISC role is, how we're working with the community and our partners to meet the needs of underserved neighborhoods and households. And this takes partnerships and collaboration in all sectors of the community working together. So we need to thank all of you for your engagement, and we look forward to building on that in the coming year. So special thanks to all of our sponsors, our donors, to our LISC staff, Tina Robbins, Emily Nygren, and Lars Kunow, and our local advisory board president, Jeff Popham, and all of our local advisory board members and marketing committee members. You make this work possible, and it's, again, we couldn't do it without you.
Today's event was only made possible by the sponsorships that we received. We hope you enjoyed learning more about LISC and the emerging opportunities within our communities. LISC is working hard to address those opportunities and rallying around all of you and around them.
When I realized I did not once again thank Maurice's for hosting us today and helping us with this full event. So thank you to Maurice's. Our annual celebration is our own fundraiser, And to those joining us, any contribution that you would like to share is greatly appreciated. This helps us to fund our ongoing local operations and investments in Duluth. For every dollar raised locally, LISC provides $6.40 in direct resources. So it's very much leveraging other dollars. You can donate through the LISC website, lisc.org/Duluth on the top of the page.
And to see this year's video again and read LISC's progress report to the community, visit lisc.org/Duluth.
And with that, thank you so much, Greg, for being with me today.
You're welcome.
And thank you to all of you. Let's great rest of your day, and let's keep working together.